guys, I've had no audio this whole time.
The whole time?
The whole time.
No.
Shoot, I'm
No.
sorry, stream. That's a pain in the butt. Ugh.
That's weird because I heard the music when I turned it on.
I know, I had the music on, but I'd muted the caption, or the me and your audio, so it wouldn't come through when I had the starting screen up.
Everybody
You want a
in
TLDR version while you get this set up?
Yeah, I've turned it on now. All right. The
All a
TL
stream
Do you want
needs
me
to
to-
be as much of a pest as I am and
I
bug you when
I
you
know.
don't hear things. I'm not in the chat, so
Do
I
you want me
can't
to-
help.
I know. Okay, so the TLDR it's just a button I had to push, so it's all set up. Thank you for the viewer who pointed that out. I do really appreciate it. So the TLDR is that the group had entered into this very fancy train car, and the attendant in the car had started walking towards them, and they decided to try and bluff their way over to the door and be like, okay, let us in, let us through this door. And he was suspicious, and he asked some questions, but they kind of bluffed around that. And then some of the people in the car started asking questions, and they bluffed through a lot of that, and they managed to get in through the next car. So that's what I'm setting up now, is them. I'm just popping them all over. Now, Battle, did you say you wanted to be in the back?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, and Yume, you want Dandy to come with you, correct?
I will leave Dandy in the previous car.
Got it. And
Smart.
Shy's coming with you, correct?
I like the way you think.
All right, so this room also has humans in it. I'm just gonna populate it very quickly. Wasn't sure when y'all would.
Sorry, not sorry,
Nope,
Spoon.
you're totally fine. I had
For Flair and me. Go ahead.
I had the option to set this up earlier, and I thought, well, let's just see how far they get. That's completely fine. That's why I have these random tokens in here, so you're good.
The player here is like, oh, I bet there's so much more we haven't addressed in this room, but
Well,
it makes sense that we were just trying to push through it.
it totally does, and that's one of the things you have to do as a GM, is you have to balance that, right? Like I play with another party, and the GM is constantly like, oh my god, there's so much you did not look at in that room, and it's like, yeah, well, this is a good character choice, so I respect that. Keep doing it. It's completely fine.
There wasn't a bee in a cage, so
Yeah, like you've got a job to do. I totally get that. All right, so I am ready. I've got you all in this car. So what you're finding in this car is actually this is a dining car. So I want you to imagine sort of in that car. The first two cars you were in, like, it was plain wooden floors, but the wooden floors in here seem to be finished. And there are, again, discrete hangings on the walls. There's actually a bar in the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like there's somebody serving food and drink. And there are corners in the other... there are tables in the other three corners, then a long table against the wall at the top. And there's about 4 people in here, and they are dressed about as well as you'd seen in the last car. You're seeing... 2 people in suits, and 2 young ladies in nice traveling clothes, not worn or anything, and there's another attendant behind the bar. What do you
When
do?
you say the bar is in the bottom right corner, are we entering from the bottom or from the left?
You are entering from the right, so you're going from right to left through these cars, and I did say the bar was in the bottom right corner, but it's actually in the bottom left. My apologies.
We
So
entered from the right,
Yep.
and the bar is in the bottom left.
Yes. So you'll
Okay.
walk past the bar to get to the left door, which is the next door you want to go through.
I'm guessing it's because it's on the screen for sake of convenience, but that the train is going west somewhere, and we are going from east to west across the train.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
what is everybody in the car doing?
Yeah.
Like, is anybody looking at us?
Well, they've all turned around when you come in, and the attendant is doing that thing that bartenders everywhere does, where he's wiping out a glass. But they all turn back to what they were doing. They all seem to be, one person seems to be playing a game by themselves in the bottom right-hand corner. In the top left-hand corner, you've got somebody reading a book and eating some food and drink. The person at the long table seems to be nursing a beer, and you can't quite see what the person in the top left-hand corner is doing because their back is to you now. But the attendant sets down the glass that he's been wiping out, and he looks expectantly at you, like to see if you need anything. So this is a. What was that?
Yumi's gonna put on a face, like scrunch and pout a little bit. And be
Okay.
like, I need to take a seat. This was a lot, and just curve off to one of the nearby corner tables.
Mm-hmm.
Freya's gonna follow Yume, and if she can like surreptitiously be seated against, like looking towards the wall, do you think that she could get away with a ritual casting of detect magic without anyone noticing?
I'm gonna
Is that a possibility?
It's possible, but you'll need to do a stealth check.
That's so reasonable. I would like to try that. That's a natural one.
You rolled a nat 1.
Yeah.
Can I
rolled
get
On
my
your
RP
stealth check?
point?
No, the RP points remain with the players. Although that is a change I am considering, but as of yet I have not discussed it. So one of the reasons I'm not doing that is the RP point. I like the players to use themselves because it helps with some of their character choices. But I'm gonna say, Freya, when you ritually cast, are you sketching blue lightning through the air? Are you crushing up herbs? Like what?
I'm working with the blue lightning in my hands,
Mhm.
and it's like in my lap. But I also tend to get a lot more sparkly and crackly just around my whole body.
What if
So I can see how it would be really noticeable.
would it make sense if you were working with something in your hands, if it sort of fell out of your hands and like made a firecracker noise on the floor?
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds consistent with
Okay. All right.
Freya and her magic.
So that happens, and everybody is startled. There's one young lady, sort of yells, and she's moved out of the way when Yume went to sit in the corner. She got up and moved down a seat, and she has like a little half screen, and she starts to stand up again, and the attendant is like, "Oh my goodness, what was that?" And he moves towards you, and he says, "I'm sorry. Can I help you? What was that?"
And Freya's like, "Oh, it's just, side effects. It's nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. I would love a glass of water, though. I'm feeling very parched."
Can you roll me a deception check?
Yeah. That is a 15.
He says, yes, of course, water, yes, coming right up. So he goes back behind the bar and he gets a glass and he fills it with water and he comes back.
Okay.
And he hands it to you and he says, Can I get you ladies anything else?" And he's looking at the rest of the party.
Can I get just do you have any meat over there?
And
By chance?
he says, yes, of course. What kind of meat?
Don't need anything particularly fancy. I think my dog would just like a snack, or if I could get a little bit of lettuce and maybe some crackers for myself.
Of course, yes. Right away. Anything else for anybody else?
So I think at this point, I don't normally like imposing difficulties on myself and on my party, but as soon as you can say that the timing is better than this if you want, but Yumi was going to sit down and start putting her senses through Dandy. So I'm
Okay.
thinking that while she's sitting there, she's just a little blank faced and like zoning out, and she doesn't hear the waiter.
He looks at you and he's concerned. He's sort of trying to see if you're okay. would anybody react to him sort of trying to get a better look at Yume to see if she's okay?
Freya's sitting next to Yume, right?
Yeah, I've got Yume and Freya seated, and then I've got
Fasting?
Yeah.
Battle and Winnie sort of standing near them.
So I think Freya would absolutely be like, "Oh, she's fine. She just gets that way sometimes."
Can you talk while you're ritual casting?
Well, I thought I'm not ritual casting anymore because
Yeah,
it
you
exploded
did.
and scared everyone.
You did explode, right? Okay, so right, okay, I forgot. And he says, "Oh, of course, traveling can be very tiring. Can I bring her anything? Tea, perhaps?"
Tea would probably be great.
Of course. And he looks at Winnie and he says, "Madame, is there anything I can get for you?" And he's treating you with a great amount of respect. He keeps eyeing the hat, and
Yeah, we're all so fancy.
you're very fancy.
That's right, we are fancy. Winnie is just going to keep
Is it
looking
like-
at the floor and just shake her head.
And he says, "If there's anything I can get for you, madam, please, please." And he goes back to the bar, and he's going to be bustling around, and he's setting up a tray. The gentleman in the top left-hand corner comes
Winnie.
over at one point and gets another drink and goes back. Sorry, Battle, what were you saying?
Winnie, and be like, "Hey, I think he likes you. You should go ask him something. Go see if you can get information off of him."
Ask him what?
I don't know if there's a bee anywhere, but maybe just be. Go ahead.
Were you just gonna say maybe just be cute? Because I think that's a hilarious sentence.
I say curious about what's ahead of the train, because theoretically, if we're pretending that we're from the previous car,
Uh-huh.
we don't know what's on the train cars ahead. So maybe she could get some info on like what we're gonna run into.
That's true.
But
I think
cute is also an acceptable response.
it is, yes.
Maybe he'll just like spill information out because she's wooing him at the bar.
That could be. I think Yume was gonna try and look through Dandy's eyes. Was that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Look
do-
and listen.
Let's do that real quick while the attendant's busy, and we can come back and resolve the whispered conversation between Battle and Winnie in just a moment. Is that all right? All right. What are we looking at? So you're checking in on Dandy. I have unpopulated this car because I stole all of the tokens. So we're just gonna
I don't-
pretend they're all here.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's necessary, but I guess we will see. First, as soon as she sits down, as soon as she can transmit her senses outwards, I would like Dandy to remain invisible and kind of hover around the lady with frou-frou?
Yes,
Is that what you called it?
I did. I did call it frou frou.
Just hover around the two of them a little bit and see if... Expecting her to be talking some smack, perhaps. And
Yeah.
just see if she listened to her complaints for a minute, see if she has anything significant to say.
Yeah, so it looks like she called the attendant over to her right after he took care of you, and she's complaining to him about your party, and like the tone of her complaints are like, they didn't, we're like they shouldn't have been here, like that's not she's concerned for her belongings if there were unexpected people in the baggage car, and she was under the impression that passengers weren't allowed back there for the safety of her belongings, and she's sort of getting all riled up, and she's saying it was their animal that started the frou-frou barking, not frou-frou, and that the other dog should be removed, and the attendant is sort of like bowing and scraping, and yes, ma'am, of course, and I'll take care of it. And yes, ma'am, of course. And she's demanding, demanding to see the manager, of course. And he's saying, oh, yes, of course, I'll see what I can do. I can't really leave the door, but, and she'll say, well, you went in and with that other fellow and left earlier. And he'll say, yes, I wasn't really supposed to. And she's like, oh, you weren't supposed to take care of me. I have paid a great deal of money. And he's like, yes, okay. And he's getting all freaked out.
Okay, that's some good information. Then I think I will spend no more than like 2 more minutes, like kind of buzzing around, maybe going, just like getting near people's spaces,
Mhm.
seeing if there's like any containers. Like not making a super thorough search because I don't want Dandy to get caught,
Mhm.
but like maybe looking underneath chairs or under tables, like near people's stuff, for anything that might stand out.
Oh, sure.
Because I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it was in here. Just gotta like be thorough about it. Make sure there's no like obvious cage with a bee friend in it.
Fair enough. Can you roll me a perception check? And I might be getting this wrong, but I believe because you are using Dandy's senses, we use your stats. Is that right?
Oh,
I feel like it's right, so we can go with that, and I can be corrected later if I'm wrong.
I use Dandy's senses.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm okay with doing that as well. But I think a perception check makes sense because we're seeing what you see through Dandy's eyes.
That's true. Oh no! That is a 2 on the die. It's a 2.
I know that Dandy is invisible, but I think with a 2, I think Frou Frou has a sense that something is in here. And so everywhere Dandy tries to go, Frou Frou jumps out of the lady's lap and is following Dandy around and growling. And so it's difficult for Frou Frou to look at anything. But what I will say is that Dandy realizes everything, all of the furniture in here is raised off the floor. So he can get a pretty good look underneath everything. And there's nowhere that like a cage with a bee in it would have been stored. And the people talking are more murmuring about the odd thing that just happened than having hidden a bee.
Okay. I send Dandy home before he gets bit.
Okay.
You say raised off the floor, do you mean on legs or do you mean magically?
Legs. On legs. Yes. On legs. Specifically mean on legs. There will be a time where they're raised magically, but today they're raised on legs. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna go back to Battle and Winnie's conversation. So I'm gonna try a thing and you tell me if this works out. I'm gonna try and mirror back at you what I think you're going for, and we don't necessarily have to play it out. I'm happy to sort of hand wave through it. So what I think Battle's trying to do is to whisper to Winnie like, that guy, you definitely got that guy's attention. Why don't you go try and see like what the next car is, or where this train is going, or information of any kind. Try and get his ring off him, or like just getting any kind of information. Does that sound like what Battle's trying to encourage Winnie to do?
Like, I think Battle would, given her, like, charisma, I would imagine she would even say something like, if you're nervous, it's okay, I bet if you just sit there, he'll just start spouting information.
Right.
Just, like, compliment him on his bartending skills or something.
That's fair.
I can sit next to you and face the other way and throw my food to the dog and the turtle and whisper stuff at you if you get stuck.
Winnie's looking very nervous, but she's gonna try it. Okay.
Okay. So you're gonna head over to the bar where the bartender is making up, for lack of a better word, is making up a tray of food for Shy, and he's making that cup of tea, and I think that's all you ordered. I would be a terrible waiter in real life. So he's sort of bustling around, and when you sit there, he says, "Oh yes, was there something else that I could get for you, madame?" And he's looking at Winnie.
I changed my mind about that cup of tea.
Oh, sure. Yes, of course. I'm boiling the water for one. It is nothing for two. Was there a certain kind of tea that you would prefer? And he starts listing a bunch of different kinds of teas. There's fruits, and there's black tea, and there's a really nice mint tea, and different kinds of leaves. And
Whatever you think will help with travel nerves.
Of course, I've got a very nice chamomile that I think has a little bit of a strawberry flavor to it. I think you'd enjoy that quite well. And so he's placing that out, and he says, "Shall I make the same for your friend?"
Me?
He's referencing Yume
Is it-
because there's a cup of.
Oh.
Yes, I think she'd like that.
Excellent. And then so he keeps making that, and he turns to Battle, and he slides the tray over to her, and he says, is this to your liking, ma'am?"
Do you have any ale? I'd take a cup of ale.
Of course. And he goes underneath the counter, and he brings out a mug, and he taps and he takes it over to a barrel in the corner and taps an ale, and he brings it to you, and he says, "Shall this serve?"
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Of course. And he turns back to Winnie, and he's continuing to make the tea. He puts everything on a tray and slides it over to you. It's hot water's in a little teapot, and it's interesting because the sound in here, there's all these bottles and cups, and they're on the shelves. They all sit next to each other, and the china on this tray that he's sliding to you, there's like this faint murmur of glass clinking together. It's quite musical. And he says, I'll be right back. And he takes the tray over to Yume and slides it onto the table. And he looks at Freya, and he says, was there anything else I could get you, ma'am?"
Priest says, nope, thanks so much.
And is
While he's
Yume...
gone, can I... Go ahead.
Sorry, is Yume awake yet, or still sort of dazed?
She can be, if you think that enough time has passed for all that.
I think so, yeah. I think Dandy was probably only in there for a minute or two. I
So
think-
maybe she comes back after the bartender's already left.
Yeah, probably. So I'll have him. He sort of like looks at Yume and sees sort of the blank look again, and he looks at Freya, and Freya probably would sort of nod in reassurance, and so he goes back. He checks on the person in the bottom right hand corner, and one of the people at the table, the long table, signals him, and he comes over and gets their order. And he goes back behind the bar, and he's starting to bustle around behind the bar again to make up another order. But he does his work in front of Winnie instead of like in an empty space or in another space, and he's not encroaching on her area or anything, but he's making sure that he's being attentive so that he's positioned in a way where he can, he will notice immediately if she needs anything. So he's always kind of sort of like flicking his eyes back up at you, like, so if he needed anything and you wanted to initiate conversation, he's super ready for it.
That's amazing. Woody's kind of just gonna look over at Battle, like, what do I say?
So while he was gone, Battle, you were gonna say,
Yes.
yep.
Compliment him. Tell him he's generous or he's so attentive or something. Get him talking.
Okay.
Woody's just gonna. I don't know how to get people talking.
You compliment him, and then you say you're nervous because it's your first time on this train, but that you like riding trains, and see what he has to say, and then see if you can finagle some information about this train from him.
I mean, I'll try.
It seems totally reasonable.
Okay.
All right, so he comes back over, and is your tea to your liking?
Yes, it's actually quite nice. Thank you. You did a really nice job of it.
Oh, my pleasure. It's one of my favorite teas. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Do you make a lot of tea for people on this train?
And he says, actually, yes, it's quite common. You're not the first to ask for something to settle the nerves. Traveling, I find, can be such a strain. And he says, that's actually a blend I bring on myself, because I find it tends to serve quite well. And he sort of blushes, and he says, pardon me for talking out of turn. And he keeps working.
No, that's actually really good information.
Poke on my ale as I'm drinking.
And he
Elbow her. And I'm like, questions about the train. And I chuck another piece of meat at at the dog.
Shy's doing tricks. Like she sees you're feeding her, and she immediately like sits up with her paws by her chest and like turns around in circles. Because you're giving her food. So she before you ask her to do anything, she's like doing stuff anyway. To try and get the food. And he says, "Oh yes, I love tea. I'm happy to talk more about that. Is there something else
Have
you wanted to know?"
you been on this train a while? Have you been working here for a long time?
And he says, "Yes, actually, it's quite, if you don't mind me saying, it's quite the opportunity for me. I really like being able to travel as much as we do. We stop in all of the towns, and it's a very good company to work for. And this train runs very regularly, and I find I'm very fortunate. Yes." And he's sort of looking around as he says that to see if anybody else is listening. Why don't you go ahead and roll me an insight check?
Insight. Oh, that's actually a really good roll. 21.
It's pretty clear that he's nervous when you ask him about his job. And when he says, like, it's quite a good job, he's making sure, like, it's almost like he raises his voice very slightly so to make sure that anybody that might be listening hears him say that it's a very good job and he's very fortunate. Sorry, so sometimes my tone doesn't come out right, so sometimes I'll ask y'all to roll insight checks so I can verbally say what it sounds like. So I apologize for sort of that workaround, but that's kind of the
No, that's great.
impression you're getting. Yeah, sorry, yeah. So that's kind of the impression you're getting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so have you met anyone interesting in your travels on this train?
And he says, "Well, of course, we always have the most interesting travelers because, of course, this is a private line, and so you see a lot of business folk and some of our nobles that belong to this sort of that are friendly with this company. Of course, we serve that, and then and we move cargo as well. And so there's always interesting traders and things going between the towns." And he's not giving you any details. Like normally you would expect somebody at this point to be sort of like, "Yeah, this one time," but he seems to be avoiding telling a story like that.
Well, I know we've been to the car next to us and met some interesting people there. Is there anyone else interesting we might meet if we check out some of the other cars?
And he says, "Oh, well, usually the travelers stick to their own cars. Of course, the car behind us is the first class, so I'm sure there's quite interesting individuals there. You'll find that in this car and the next are sort of the common room cars. So this is the dining car, and you'll find the parlor car next door where you can relax. And gentlemen will smoke cigars, and then after that, you're going to be sort of mingling with some of the business folk, and but the business folk in first class tend to sort of keep to themselves, which is of course only natural." And he seems to be being awkward again.
That makes sense. Any interesting business people that you've met, and what kind of business do people do that ride this train?
And he says,
Elbow her and like.
and he says, well, the business, yes. They don't. Well, you'll find that people don't really talk about the work they do when they're I'm right. Yes, I'll be right there. And he pretends, like he seems to be pretending like somebody needs something, and he comes over to this table and checks in with this human, and sort of seems to be staying overly long, kind of over here. and he takes a while to check in with everybody before he gets back behind the bar, and he sort of reluctantly asks you if you would like a refill on your tea.
Yes, please.
And he refills it, and he says, and he sort of, he looks like he's in trouble, and he sort of apologizes and explains he doesn't want to talk out of turn, and it's sort of a company policy to try and keep the passengers' privacy, so he's sort of obliged to do that. But you seem like a very nice person, and he's sure you didn't mean anything by it, and he's just sorry that he couldn't say more, is kind of what he's saying.
I see. It makes sense. It's part of your job.
Yes, thank you. And he seems very relieved that you understand.
Yeah, I mean, being a woman traveling with just some other female companions, is there anything we should be careful of on this train, or do you feel like we're safe and secure?
He sort of looks surprised, and he says, well, what did I name this train? I should remember this.
No idea.
Hang on, let me look at my notes.
I had it written down. I don't remember I wrote it.
Oh, oh, of course I wrote it down with a ridiculous spelling. Did I just name it the Z train?
I think it was just the Z train.
Great. I'm terrible at naming things. And he says,
No.
and it's spelled ZHEI, so there's that at least. He says, well, the Z train is, it's very well known for its safety, and which is why we have the passengers that we do. So I don't think there's anything for you to be concerned about. And if there's anything you are concerned about, you can tell one of the attendants. There's an attendant in each car, and we will be happy to help you, of course. Was there something you were concerned about, Madame?
Oh, we just had a bit of trouble in the baggage car when I was retrieving one of my items. I kind of got a little stuck in one of the crates.
And he looks very confused, and he says, you were in the baggage car? Passengers aren't supposed to be in the bag. Did Jeffrey let you in the baggage car? And he sort of points. Yes. And he says, that's very odd. He's not supposed to do that.
He said he was making an exception because I was very upset because I was missing one of my pieces of fruit from my hat.
Can you go ahead and roll me a deception check?
Oh my god. Oh.
Or performance, whichever is higher.
Natural 20, it doesn't matter. I would be 18 because I have a -2. But
so I think your anxiousness about, tell me if this sounds right. I would think your anxiousness about this entire endeavor would translate to him as a very earnest upsetness about losing a fruit from your hat. And he can see how, the guy in the other car would have also seen that upsetness. And, you've already, and he says, well, of course, we are here to see to your comfort. So if that's what you needed, and he sort of seems to be justifying it to himself, like if that's what the customer asked for, then that's what we do. But that's also against the rules, but it must be okay because everything's okay, and I don't want to report this. So he sort of like shuts up, and he's like, yeah, okay, great.
He'll keep it secret.
what? I couldn't hear that, Sarah.
He'll keep his secret? I whisper to you in your ear.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep your secret.
And he says, "Oh, I mean, that would be good. He would get in quite a bit of trouble, but as long as there was no, cause for anybody to know, I will, of course."
Yeah, I could see why letting everybody into the baggage car would be maybe a security issue, but
Exactly. Yes, he's relieved that you understand that.
yeah, I won't tell anyone else because we don't want everybody going in there.
Well, no. That would be, no, that would be terrible. Yes, of course. And he's like, "Do you want more tea?"
I haven't drunken any of the tea at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So my cup is still full.
Yeah. And he's like, "Okay, I'll, one moment." And he goes around and he checks with everybody again. And the guy in the top left-hand corner actually gets irritated and he's like, "If I want something, I will come get it." And the attendant's like, "Oh, yes, of course, yes, sorry." And he goes back around to the bar. He's sort of looking away from you and trying to, he's no longer actively looking for engagement. He's sort of looking at anything but you. And
While he's walking away, I'm gonna ask Battle if I should say anything else, or if we scared
I
him
think-
off at this point.
I think that's good. I think if both of you are so anxious, if either of you say anything else, you'll probably just
explode.
run out of breath.
Yeah.
You did a great job, though. Good job. We got some good information.
Okay, so really
Guy
quick,
in the back corner seems kind of crabby, though.
I want to check in with Freya and Yume real quick, because we haven't heard from them in a moment. What are Freya and Yume doing?
Maybe not wakes up, but comes back to her own senses some time ago and looks around and sees that the two of them are not immediately at the table and sees the cup in front of her. She's like, "Oh, you ordered tea for me. You remembered chamomile is my favorite, Freya? Thank you so much."
Freya looks a little bit ashamed, and she's like, I did order you tea. I ordered you tea. Yeah.
Thanks. What's your favorite?
Like, Freya looks a little confused and concerned, and she thinks for a while, and she says, I think I've only had tea 2 or 3 times. I don't know what my favorite is.
Well, I think you need to try a couple.
Probably. It always just smells weird.
I don't. Yumi's probably not offended by that, but what do you? What? That's not true. It all smells great.
Freya says it just super matter of fact, and she's like, I think it just smells weird.
Is Freya the kind of human that's it's literally just dead leaves in
Just
hot
plain water.
water?
She's the kind of human that
Or humanoid, rather.
when she says it smells weird, she
Mhm.
means that it always smells very different than it tastes. The smell is often a more
Mhm.
full-bodied and intense smell than the water
Okay.
that you then drink. And so she's not super impressed. She doesn't dislike it, but she just doesn't understand why people care about it so much.
Well, we can take as much enjoyment out of smelling it before we sip it as you can from drinking it. Let's take a sip.
She looks at Yume, and it's clear that she just doesn't get it, but she also is sure that that's probably a valid point. And so she's like, yeah, yeah, yes.
The lady isn't very happy with us, but I don't think she'll be causing us much issue. I don't know if. Do I know his name's Jeffrey? I don't think I do.
I think I called him Jeffrey, but his name is actually Gus. He's one of the dudes that
Oh,
that
yeah.
you guys heard.
We did know that from earlier. from the
Yeah,
first
sorry.
show.
I get so I forget the names
Okay.
so often. Yeah.
She kind of yelled at Gus, but I don't think he's actually going to do anything about it because I don't. He's supposed to talk to his manager, but I don't think that's going to happen. They have to stick where they are.
Freya's like, well, thank goodness. I mean, I think she seemed like the kind of person who would get upset. But I'm glad that they're not moving.
Yeah. Yume, I have a question about your umbrella
Mm-hmm.
and what you would have been doing with it. Because I
Oh,
can't remember what color it is, and you're wearing a very pretty pink dress.
it is a verdant green with white edges, I believe.
I think that'll
It's kind of
match.
parasol-ish.
Yeah, I think that'll match the dress, so I think that will go without comment. But I had forgot to check in on it, and I was just looking at your token on the map, and I was like, "That's right. That's not. That's a. It's. I wonder if the umbrella is green." So perfect. Okay, so we're at about an hour mark. We usually take a quick break around now. Is everybody ready for like 5-10 minute break?
Sure.
Sure.
We're looking at 5 or 10 minutes.
10, please.
10, please. Okay, we will be back at 40 minutes after the hour. Stream. Go ahead and ask questions in chat if you'd like. Otherwise, we will see you back here in 10 minutes. Oops. Not Branches and Dragon. Broken Bay. There we go. Okay. Hello, Stream. We're back, and I'm checking the microphones. I now have a sticky note on my TV to remind me to check the damn microphones. So I've done that. They're checked. I see noise happening. Therefore, we can continue. So hi, Stream. We're back from our break, and we're going to pick up where we left off, which was, just to recap a little bit, Yume and Freya were talking about tea, and they were talking about what Dandy found out, so they don't think the attendant is going to go raise any concerns. And Winnie and Battle were talking with the bartender dude. They found out... Well, Winnie, why don't you recap what you found out there? Maybe. Or you want me to do it? I can do it.
I mean, we didn't really find out too much other than that there's, you know, a parlor train ahead of us, and, like, then the business class is ahead of us, and he was pretty shady about the types of people that are on the train, and he also seemed like he was making way more of an effort than necessary to convince us that he loves his job.
Yep.
Which also makes me think that there's some shady business going down, so...
That all sounds right. Anything anyone else wants to add to the goings-on just now, or... Alright.
There's a very gruff person in the corner who does not want the bartender to pay too much attention to him either, which I know my character's curiosity is now piqued.
Ooh.
I think that was more like the bartender keeps going and checking out on everybody so he doesn't have to talk to you guys, and the guy in the corner was like, cut it out!
Enough. Been there.
Yep.
Also, he said that there's an attendant in every room,
Yep.
and they're not supposed to leave their room,
Yep.
and that there's more than just passenger cars up ahead, but it's a mix, right?
Yes, that sounds right.
So, like, with all of this information, I think Freya would also be wondering, it seems like that there doesn't seem to be a lot of communication between cars. So even though there are these, like, magical door locks, it doesn't look like at least the peon level people have the ability to communicate in between cars, which is probably pretty valuable for us.
Yeah, as
At
far
least
as
not
you've
that
seen, yeah.
far.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Alright. Okay, so let's jump back in. So we've got the two groups, one in the half of you in your corner and half of you are at the bar. Shy is delightedly being fed food. The two ladies at the long table are watching Shy and like, ooh, yay, oh, look at that. They think she's adorable. What are y'all doing next?
So we just need to keep moving forward.
Well, yeah, the tables in here are raised, so it's, and there's no coverings on them, so you can see that about the only place you can't really see is behind the bar, but Winnie and Battle have a pretty good view behind the bar, and other than what's under the bar they're sitting at, it doesn't look like anything's being hidden in here, but you also haven't checked behind the bar.
I was just thinking about that. I want to check, like, everything so bad, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to, like, interrogate everybody and check every corner. Like, it feels like it would be a little bit more obvious than just, like, a hidden panel somewhere. Do you have something, Freya?
I was just gonna ask you, May, if there were any more, like, details or clues about who we're supposed to be saving, or who's keeping them hidden, because I'm just worried that, like, we're missing something.
I'm going to ask Spoon to fill it back in a little bit, but I'm going to basically say, like, it's another emissary of my, I think she'll say queen by accident, like, of my queen, like my friend that gives me powers. They're being stopped by some people. I don't know what that actually looks like now that we're here. I guess I assumed it would be some sort of box or crate, but it might not be. I think they might have to actively hold them at bay somehow. Because she's really powerful.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything about that.
So maybe it's happening somewhere else on this train. Do we know how long this train, like how many cars this train has?
You don't, because it pulled in.
We jumped in the back because
Yeah,
we're really
yeah.
good at recon.
Yep.
Cool.
Ren and, well, I didn't have Ren at the time. Shy and I go and look at the back of the train and kind of look at the train from behind. Could we tell before the train took off? Remember, we like scouted ahead.
You
we?
scouted ahead. You scouted ahead into the caboose. I don't think you sort of like. It's difficult to tell how many cars a train has from the end. I say from experience. So, because the perspective's all wrong. But it was a long train. You're still not quite sure how long it is, though.
I trust your judgment.
Yeah.
At what point do we jump on top of the train? Or do we?
When we get into a fight,
Okay, fair
I'm gonna
enough.
bring Dandy back. I'm not gonna go through his senses or anything. I'm just gonna have him go behind, ask him to go behind the bar, and let me know if there's anything. It doesn't seem like is belonging, like creatures. If there are any creatures back there or boxes that don't look like they involve food or alcohol,
And
wares.
where did we land on how much detail he can give you? Is it like a yes no? Is it a he can actually talk to you?
I don't know if we did. It says communicate telepathically.
Yeah, I think it's more of a knowing, right?
The
So
creature it's based off of has language.
yeah,
I
I would.
believe.
Yeah, okay. So he looks behind the bar and he's telling you there aren't any creatures, but he does see some strange-looking bottles on the floor.
And I will take just a moment to peek through. Like, oh, what are those? Does it just look like alcohol?
They look like potions, actually.
Ooh.
What made the tea taste like strawberries, sir?
And he says, "Oh, it's actually dried strawberries, and then they're dried, and then sort of the strawberry bits are cut up and then mixed in with the tea, so you actually sort of like have little bits of strawberry in there."
So I don't think you can contain her excitement, and she'll tell Freya that she sees potions behind the bar. I don't think she's automatically like. Yumi's not looking to go steal them herself if someone else wants to. Leaving that space
Yeah.
open, but she definitely wants to share it with her friends. And Freya's right there.
Freya is like really anxious that they're gonna like miss something. So she's gonna go ahead and do a regular casting of detect magic.
Okay.
Use up that last spell slot. And like just kind of slowly look around the room and then like walk over to where Winnie and Battle are and like lean over and just continue. She should be able to see unless it's blocked by like lead or a foot of wood.
Sure. So the first thing you notice is the ring on the bartender's belt. It's the same kind of ring as the last door. And you notice that there's a certain resonancy between that ring and both doors in this this car, but also with a car further down. And it seems to be two distinct sort of like signals, if you will. And then the potions, you do see potions sort of have sort of a passive magic aura, so you can tell that they're those kinds of potions, but you can't tell what they do.
Okay.
because they're too faint, but you can tell that they're potions.
So they're definitely magic potions, but I don't know what they do.
Yeah, I like the idea of potions being a sort of a fate thing where you actually have to be holding them, but like looking at them
No, I
unless
think
they're
it's
particularly powerful. So like if this was like a greater healing a
totally
potion or
appropriate.
whatever, but these seem to be fairly like low level type things.
Okay, so they're not like crazy powerful, but I
Nope.
don't know much more. That seems super reasonable. Any of the passengers glowing?
No, these all seem to be regular people. None of them
Looking
seems to be
looking for magic
spellcasters of any
items.
kind. No.
Okay. So I am gonna tell you, May, that like it looks like they're definitely potions, but they don't seem to be anything particularly powerful. Um, and I'm not noticing any other magic in the car, and so I think we should just keep moving, especially because if we move through the next car, then the spell will still be active.
That's a good
Um,
idea.
Mhm.
And if things kind of blow up, we can maybe come back for them later if they're important.
mhm.
Figuratively blow up.
Or literally.
Figuratively. Okay. All right. So what are we doing next?
I'm
Excuse me,
gonna-
sir. Can I bring this cup with me to the next car and point to the one we haven't been to yet?
He says, "Yes, of course. I can come collect it later."
Okay, I think we're ready to leave.
And he says, sure." And he comes around the end of the bar and he uses his ring on the door. So you guys are gonna pass through to the next car.
Cool.
What was that?
Battle.
I just said cool.
What was Battle saying?
Appreciate it.
Sorry,
Uh-oh.
You
Can
said,
you hear me?
You said that was very bold and I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so you're heading into the next car. Let me go ahead and set that up real quick. Oh, my map does not want to play nice with me.
I want to know why a sketchy nice guy bartender has potions.
I mean, the bar seems like a pretty decent place to store potions if you're gonna have potions.
It does. It does it indeed.
I want to know what he doesn't like about his job.
Also a fair question. So there's gonna be a dude over here. Then I gotta move each one of you over. Who's going through the door first?
I guess I will this time since I
Yeah.
prompted him to open it.
Okay. So you head on into the next car. And I think I heard Winnie say that they were gonna be. I'm pressing control. Winnie say they were gonna be going through as well.
Yes.
So this is another very
Is also went through.
okay. So this is another fairly fancy room, but all of the chairs in here are overstuffed, sort of red leather chairs, and the style in here is more masculine. And there are 4 gentlemen in here. They're all ignoring each other. They all look like they're dressed very well. One of them has a top hat and a monocle, and they're all they're all smoking cigars, and there's an attendant at the end. And as soon as you enter, the gentleman to the right of you, who's sitting by the door, he looks up, and he sees, and he says, "Oh, what brings you into here, my dears?" And he seems to be sort of startled at 4 young ladies coming into this car.
The attendant or one of the people sitting in the car?
One of the people sitting in the car.
Why are we here?
We're just
Freya looks at
exploring-
him and go ahead.
Yeah, when he just says, "We're just exploring the train and seeing who we can meet."
And she says, he says, "Oh, of course. Well, take a seat, my dears." And
This
there,
whole car is filled with smoke.
it's actually somehow being like filtered out really, really well. Like they're all smoking cigars, but it only smells faintly of like in a pleasant way of cigars, and the smoke all seems to be funneling somewhere else immediately.
That's not
Cool.
nearly so
So
unbearable.
Freya should still have detect magic on, and so she wants to be looking around the car, trying to figure out like if there's anything magical.
So I did forget to mention in the last car that you saw a magical thing on the wall in the same place that you would have seen that you would expect the emergency ring to be. So you see that here as well,
Got it.
and you see the ring on the dude's belt. He also resonates with the two doors in this room and the doors in the dining car. Seems to have
Okay.
the same ring as the guy in the last car.
Do there continue to be 4 spots of like puzzle box wall configurations, or only
There do.
the one location?
No, there appear to be those 4, one on either side of each door on the left and the right. But there only seems to be a ring in one of them.
Okay.
And the gentleman with the top hat and the monocle, his monocle is shiny somehow. And the gentleman in the bottom left-hand corner appears to have dagger-shaped sort of magic. But it's also very faint. Like, neither of these people have very powerful magics. And you can see sort
Okay.
of runes in the ceiling that seem to be funneling the smoke away.
Neat.
And the doors are shiny. Because whenever you walk through one, instead of like having to step over the gap in between the cars, you just sort of like shoop into the next car.
That seems like a cool but unnecessary use of power.
It is. I like it a lot.
Interesting.
I mean, the runes funneling smoke away as well are kind of ridiculous.
I don't know. That seems like a really to not have a room full of smoke. I would. That seems totally worth it.
Pretty practical.
Oh, hello. This looks like a very cozy room. Do you all want to sit down here for a little while? Joe moved towards one of the couches.
Okay, so there are 2 seats sort of next to each other in the top left-hand corner with just a table in between them. And so there's a seat in every corner and then 2 seats on each long wall. So there are 4 empty seats, which just happens to be the right amount for each of you. Where are you sitting?
Freya is gonna sit next to the guy with the dagger.
Okay.
If it makes sense, I'd be close to the one with the monocle and top hat.
Okay, you can sit right next to him.
I'll sit on the other side of Yume in the upper left.
Okay, Winnie's in the top left, closest to the attendant. So Battle, you get the bottom right hand corner. And Shy will kind of lean up against you. Alright, what are we doing?
Just try. I'm not good at this, but just trying to chat them up a little bit, see if they'll spill any juicy information.
So do you think Yume would approach this by asking the gentleman in the top hat like where he got his hat, or what brings him on the train, or what he's reading, or
Oh, was he reading a book? I thought he was talking with some other people in here. Was that it?
no, none of these
Incorrect.
gentlemen are talking to each other at all. The
Oh.
one in the top hat and the monocle has like a newspaper. The one in the bottom left-hand corner seems to be asleep. Which is dangerous. Like the attendant keeps looking at him because he's got a cigar and it's like drooping,
Mhm.
and the attendant like is like ready to grab it. And then the one that Freya's sitting next to is a bit younger and doesn't seem to enjoy smoking this cigar, and is just sort of like staring off into space. And the gentleman that talked to y'all when you first came in, he's reading a book now that you've stopped talking to him.
I think being enthusiastic and interested in what he's reading is fitting.
Fair enough.
I'll go with that.
Okay. He's sort of he looks startled, like who's talking to me, and he sees you, and he looks at you through his monocle, and he says, well, Well, I like to read about, the news, of course. He seems confused and befuddled, and as soon as he can, he kind of turns back to reading his paper.
Oh, gee. Um.
Turn to the who looks like he's staring off and ask him what bothers you, friend?
He recalls, he comes back to himself, and he looks over and he says, "Oh, where are my manners? My name is Sir Reginald, and may I have the honor of your address?" He just asks you for your name.
Is it me or
I'm
Metal?
trying to think of what I should say.
We're all
I
so
can,
good
I
at
can help
this.
with that if that makes a difference. Oh, my name's Yume. It's really nice to meet you. I
And
to shake
he
his hand.
pivots around and he looks across the car at you and he says, "Oh, yes, of course, it's wonderful to meet you." And he realizes there are 4 women in this car and he didn't notice any of you come in, and he says, I believe you all have me at a disadvantage. May I know the rest of you?"
Freya looks a little startled and concerned. She's been really intent on trying to just like look at each of the men in the car and see if she can figure out like any kind of clue. And she looks up and she just kind of mumbles and goes back to kind of looking around.
And I didn't quite catch that. Yeah, oh, well, and he looks over at Winnie, like, and your name?
I'm Gruveniana Flora.
And he says, "Oh, of course. I know the Flores very well. Quite a well-known family. And of course, you're probably traveling on family business, so I'll leave you to that." And he turns to Battle and says,
Lucky.
"And you, my dear."
My character is more charismatic than I am in this moment.
You can just
I think she'd probably just use it as, "It's nice to meet you. I'm Battle. Ignore our friend. She's a bit shy. She's a little overwhelmed. We'll just leave her be for now."
And he says,
Pointing at
"Oh,
Freya.
yes, of course, of course. Sorry, I should not. That's a different character." He says, "Oh, indeed, I don't mean to intrude at all. You just caught me in a moment of deep thought. I'm not worried about anything, but thank you for your concern. I just have a quandary that I am facing."
Maybe we could help. We're good at quandaries.
And he says, "Oh, indeed." And he looks kind of embarrassed, and he looks at the other gentlemen who are, like, pointedly ignoring him. And he says, "Well, it's sort of a personal nature."
We're good at those too.
And he sort of looks at all of you, and he says, "Well, it does actually involve a lady, so if you wouldn't mind." And he sort of pauses.
We'd be happy to.
I
We're
think
not here to judge you, only to help, friend.
we could surely help, and perhaps you can help us with something too, if we're of any assistance to you.
"I am, of course, at your service. No assistance is needed before I am at your service, but I thank you." And he says, what can I help you with?"
Oh, well, I'm very glad you're so talkative here. The others don't seem so much. The last car we were in was very boring, and I sat down here because I saw some reading material, and I like to read. And I often like to read mysteries. And I was kind of excited to come onto the train to know if there were any mysteries going on here. Do you know of anything suspicious? Have you heard any good stories on the time you spent here?
The attendant, go ahead and roll me what's your passive perception?
Passive perception?
Yeah.
10.
I think out of the corner of your eye you would catch the attendant sort of looking startled, and like he starts to listen in a little bit more, and he's fingering the ring on his belt, and Sir Reginald says, "Oh, mysteries. Well, let me see. There's of course all of the drama that you find amongst the nobles in first class, and the man in the top hat harumphs, and the Sir Reginald sort of tips an imaginary hat at him, and he says, but I'm not sure that's quite the kind of mystery you're interested in." And he seems to be enjoying this conversation, and he says, "Now, of course, there's all the legends about this train, which you may not be familiar with."
I'm not familiar with this train, no. This is the first time I've ever been on one. I've only read about them in books.
What is the attendant's reaction to him saying that
About the myth
about this train?
about this train, he just continues to look nervous. Like he looks nervous. If you want to roll an insight check on him, I might be able to tell you a little bit more.
Yes, and also if he's still looking nervous, I might want to send Shy over to like ask for some pets to distract him.
Oh.
Okay.
I would like to use my role-playing point because I rolled a 4.
Sure. Yep.
No, I didn't want to use it. Can I pick the higher roll?
Oh yeah, no, you picked the the higher roll. Wait, is your highest roll a
Okay, thank
4?
you. Yeah.
Oh,
But I haven't added the points to it yet, but
okay.
insight you said, right?
Yep.
I only rolled a total of 8 as my highest.
He just looks really nervous. But so you send
Okay.
Shy over there.
I'd still like to send Shy over to like kind of, like how dogs like bump into you and maybe even like put a little paw on the leg to like, hey,
he
give me
tr-
the pets.
he tries
Move their butt up against you.
desperately to ignore the dog. Like he's like looking down at the dog and then looking back up and then looking down at the dog and then looking back up and like looking at you and looking at the dog and like just sort of trying to edge away from it. Like it doesn't look like
Can
he's
I roll her a persuasion check with puppy dog eyes?
Yes. Yes, you may. And I'll give you advantage because she's adorable.
She is adorable. Oh, that's much better. Is that charisma?
Yeah.
Okay. 15.
So he sort of caves and like his hand, which has
Wait,
been
you said I have advantage? Wait. 17. Huh. Sorry.
Yeah, so he caves and his hand sort of opens and she shoves her nose in it and he sort of like holds it still so she can shove her nose on it to get pet. And he sort of smiles a little bit and every now and then he looks up at you to see if you're like, get away from my dog, and when you're not, he just sort of looks back down. So he seems to be well distracted. It's a good call. So Sir Reginald is saying, "Oh, this is your first time on the train. This is quite a nice train. This is a private train. It's owned by the Zeeb family." And he says, which is a quite ancient family, and I have to say that they're very well off. They run many of these kinds of trains, and they but this one, of course, is particular. Did you notice the color of the train when you boarded?
I don't remember what the color was. Do you think we would have noticed?
Well, the back of the car was black, but Battle probably would have noticed that it was a rather strangely shiny blue.
Yeah, it was like blue and silver.
No, I don't remember. I was just so excited with getting on board to start our journey.
Well,
Is the color significant?
it is, at least according to the myth I'm about to relate. What this train is the swiftest of them all, and there is a myth that the founder of the Z family was himself an Air Genasi, and when he was on his deathbed, he was one of the first families to use the train, and he says Now, the Genasi are quite clever, being elementals. They find themselves being drawn to endeavors and projects that are similar to their sphere of influence. So, being an air Genasi, he, of course, the kind of speed that you would get out of a train is something that would fascinate somebody like an air Genasi. So when trains first began to be widely used, he sought far and wide for the fastest train of them all, and he was never satisfied. But on the eve of his death, once he had passed on, with his last breath, those around him noticed that his essence seemed to be gone, which is not itself strange for an air Genasi, but there was something more. And in his train fields, train yards, immediately the following day, they discovered this train. And they discovered that it was the fastest of them all. And it was odd in that it was not the same color as normally his trains are a sedate black. But this one is this light blue with this chased silver. And they say no paint will take to its sides, but it has the family emblem. Now, what do you say to that?
Say that's a wonderful story. Do you think he created it? Do you think it is him?
Well, no one knows. And he seems to be enjoying the air of mystery that he's created.
You mean he's making a full performance, like not even a fake performance. She's very experienced with, like, she hasn't had a lot of personal friends in her life, but she's met a lot of people at her, like, her family's, like, temple. So she's had experience, like, being attentive to people, making them feel important and have have her full attention. Like,
Yeah.
yes, of course, sir. And so she's like at the edge of her seat, hands clasped, just like.
Oh
staring at
yeah,
him, so
perfect. Yeah. He actually leans forward as well, and he's set his cigar in an ashtray on the table, and he's really getting into it. And he embellishes. He tells you, like, I gave a very short version of it, but I want you to imagine that it's sort of a rather involved telling, and he's really enjoys your engagement, and he's looking at the other woman as well, just to make sure that everybody feels involved. Is anybody else doing anything while he tells this story?
Listening, trying not to look over or act like I'm caring at all about what's happening with the dog, other than to make sure she's being a good distraction.
Yeah, she's being a good distraction. Frey, I think you said something, but you were muted. No, I cannot. I think what you're saying is she was originally really interested, but she's trying to pay attention to the guy next to her. I lost some of your captions there. It doesn't look like you're muted in Discord. You might have muted the mic, physically. Not muted anywhere. Scrap and trap are the two web captions that just came through. So that's highly entertaining. Nope, can't hear you still.
Ah,
There you are.
you can hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay, cool. This is, I had to pull it off the headphones, so let me see if I can reconnect them
Okay.
and it will work. I don't want you to get feedback.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
So they just disconnected randomly. Good job, microphone. Good job, headset.
Good job. Good job. So Freya is just going to be like leaning forward and trying to pay more attention to the story. She thinks it's fascinating and really interesting. And she's starting to wonder if whatever is happening is like because of the air genasi whose spirit may or may not be in this train.
Whether what's happening.
Like if the
friend theft.
person that the friend theft. If the friend theft is related to
Oh.
like power in the train.
All right. Yep. That's fair.
Page. So I think I will ask him. That's a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, now I'm curious. Has there been anything strange or spooky since you've been on the train yourself that might have to do with it?
And he says, well, I've actually traveled this train quite a bit, being a businessman like myself. And I've always been sort of amused by the cloak and dagger type of loading and unloading they do in some of the cars at the front. You know, all of our luggage, of course, is stored in the back. And the attendant, his head snaps up and he, like, looks super nervous. And the guy telling, Sir Reginald, like, notices this.
What did he just say?
Is like, you know, sort of saying anyway. He says he enjoys the cloak and daggerness of the way they load things onto the front of the car and into a front car, but that he knows that, you know, their baggage is in one of the back cars. And he's like, I've never really found out what they store up there, but it must be very important. And at this point, you realize he's sort of teasing the attendant as well. Does anyone want to roll an insight check on this dude?
Yes.
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 Do it. Roll damn bones.
You said insight?
Yep. What was Winnie's?
Freya got a 13.
Hang on, I heard Winnie's first. What was Winnie's?
19.
19. You can tell this guy is kind of a spoiled rich boy, right? Like, he takes his title very unseriously, and he mentioned business in sort of a casual way, and he very much enjoys the attention he's getting from you ladies, and he appears to be very much enjoying making the attendant uncomfortable. He knows what he's doing. He knows he's making the attendant uncomfortable, and he knows that he's telling you all a story, but he doesn't seem to be doing it in a malicious way. He just seems bored. Freya, you rolled a 13.
That is correct.
You could tell that he likes telling a story and he seems to like being the center of attention. He doesn't seem to be trying to cause harm or anything. What did Battle get?
23.
You can tell a little bit more about the fact that his boredom sort of has an edge to it. And he seems to be calculating what he's saying to you all to try to keep your interest. Almost like he's practicing keeping your interest. What did Yume roll? Like he's not good
I
at
didn't roll
talking.
insight.
Okay. Battle, like he's not good at talking to girls, and the fact that you're all paying attention to him is sort of good for him, and he's, you know, he's almost taking notes about what keeps your interest.
Ooh, I want to respond to that.
You can. I
Can.
mean, this is your game. You do you.
Is he actually taking notes, or is he just like, I can tell?
You can just tell that he's trying to. It's like he's not actually writing anything down. You can just tell that he's sort of you rolled really high.
Internalizing it,
Yeah, he's
like-
internalizing it. Yeah.
Secrets are an excellent currency when it comes to women.
His head,
Just so you know.
his head sort of whips around, and he's like, "Really?" And then he tries not
Oh,
to look
yes.
interested, and he's like, "Well, I mean, I think anyone would enjoy a good secret."
But I think women feel special when you tell them a secret. I mean, anyone, really. You're right. But
So he's sort of leading in your direction, and he does not seem to be flirting with you specifically. He's like, well, okay, well, what kind of secret would sort of pique your interest? It's like he's sort of clumsily trying to mask his interest by making flirting noises, but he's not really flirting with you, if that makes sense.
Flirting noises.
yeah,
I don't know what
Yeah,
flirting
just
is like in real life.
rehearsing.
Love it.
I think I would match his body language and lean in as well, and have kind of that like knowing face. Like I'm gonna give you some pro tips here. You know, when you catch somebody's interest with an interesting story with juicy details, if you give them one step further about that juicy detail, they might just feel special because you've let them in on something especially important.
Well, I wouldn't want to lie.
What do you mean lie?
Well, what if this tale that I've told, for instance, this afternoon, to this wonderful group of ladies, I don't know the truth of it at all. I'm just sharing a casual story, and I mentioned the cloak and dagger stuff because it's just an intriguing tidbit that they take such pains to load things so secretly at the front of the car, and but I don't really know what they're doing. I travel this train fairly frequently, but it's, it seems to be fairly above board. As nervous as that fella is over there, and the attendant tries to look anywhere, but he tries to look very hard like he's not listening, but he does not do a good job.
I feel like I want to lean forward with even more of a hushed voice and be like, is an educated guess better than the flip of a coin?
And he leans forward as well, and he's like, well, if I was to guess, of course, I would say that there would be some sort of black market dealings going on. They must be smuggling something. The attendant cannot help himself, and he goes, ahem.
I like this guy.
It's very useful.
And Shai just keeps
This is
bumping his
exactly-
hands, like, please pet me, please pet
Oh
me,
yeah,
please pet
Shai's
me.
like, hey.
He's like, yeah.
I think you're going to give this gentleman a heart attack if we keep going at this rate, but
And he's
I
sort
think
of,
that's exactly the strategy you should use with your problem if that is the avenue of which it is underneath.
he sort of like looks over his shoulder, and he's like, yes, well, we probably should leave this poor young man alone. And he leans back in his chair, and he waves his hand at the attendant like, we are, of course, just chatting, calm down. But he looks back at you, Battle, and he's like, you've given me much to think about. I will think on what you've shared with me this evening, and perhaps that will solve my problem. Thank you.
Something might have gone over my head as a player.
Yep.
So he already revealed to us what his problem was. Like, we agreed, like, you help us, we'll help you. Did that already come to pass? Did I miss it?
I believe what Battle was picking up on, and perhaps I could be wrong, is he mentioned that his problem was something of a personal nature, and then he said something about perhaps you would be able to help. And there was a particular emphasis on you, like, ladies. And then when Battle rolled really high on her perception, and what she was noticing from Sir Reginald is that when he realized you were all paying attention to him, he sort of seemed to be interested less in you as ladies and more in how to capture ladies in general's interest. And so she jumped in and was like, to keep a lady's interest, you might want to share secrets. And that was kind of what was going on there. She sort of picked up on the fact
Okay.
that his problem is of a lady nature, and given his age and demeanor and this sort of situation, he's probably having trouble getting a girl to like him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sort of using this as practice to be like, okay, if I tell silly stories, will that keep a lady's interest? And does that sound about right, Battle?
Yes.
Is that, yeah,
Poor
okay.
fella.
And Battle was just encouraging him to, no matter how much trouble he was going to get in, she was just ready to take that information and run.
Right. Battle did a really good job of being like, of like giving Sir Reginald the impression that if he shared a secret, then, then that would catch a lady's interest. And in the vein of him continuing to try and keep their interest, he shared a little bit more. So it was really good
And it
cover.
makes ladies feel special.
Yes.
But really, I just wanted to pick his brain.
information. Yeah. Yeah, that was really neat back and forth there. I appreciated that. And I kept trying to say, like, he wasn't flirting with you all, to be clear that it was more of him practicing than him trying to pick up anybody. But I had to use words because I'm bad at the flirting in real life.
No, I
I can't flirt in real
apparently
life.
I am as well. Like, apparently,
I had this guy. I was
any
in,
girls, non-binary people also don't
Yeah.
pick up on these things because it was obviously that's what the scene was about. And I'm like, oh, that was his problem. Now, oops.
Yeah, no, I was at a convention once, and this guy was talking to me, and I thought we were just having a really good chat about, like, D&D, and my husband, who was standing next to me, the guy walks away, and he was like, that guy was hitting on you. And I was like, what? so the worst at this. So are you saying that Yume is also clueless about this, or is?
Oh yeah, Yume has no idea at all. I knew that's
Okay.
what was going on, but I didn't know that was what his problem was.
Yeah. Well, this probably just sort of whooshes over Yume's head then that Battle and probably Winnie has figured out what's going on here.
Okay, then I guess that would lead into Yume going, okay, now what can we help you with? Thank you for the story.
And he says, well, I actually, well, your friend here has probably already figured it out, but, and he gestures at Babel and he says, there's a young lady, and the guy in the top hat goes, and, like, shakes his newspaper, like, we don't talk of these things, shut up.
This is
And-
the men's club.
Yeah, and Sir Reginald rolls his eyes at him, and he says, there's a young lady of good standing that I would like to catch the interest of, and sometimes it's quite difficult. And he gestures at you all, like, ladies of good breeding. It's sometimes quite difficult to catch their interest and keep it. And I appreciate your friend's advice here. Apparently, secrets are the way to go.
Yume makes a face of Battle.
Battle's gonna wink at Yume.
One of those, like, we might have to talk about this later.
Yep.
And so he's, I think he might continue small talk. We're getting close to time this evening, and we'll start wrapping up soon. So I guess what I want to know is, I know Freya mentioned a little earlier that she used her last spell slot, and this would probably be a good car to hang out in. I think if anybody asked like how long it would take for this train to get to its final destination, you would find out that this train intends to travel through the night. So there aren't any sleeper cars or anything, but if y'all were to take a long rest or a short rest, this would probably be a decent car to do that in.
That sounds
Alright, so-
lovely.
It's a long trip.
Yep.
There
Yes.
are no beds, no places to sleep, but it will be going through the night. So people are kind of going to be sleeping in chairs or just staying up all night,
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
Hmm.
We know there's multiple stops. Do we have any awareness of when the first stop is?
The first stop is in, I think I'm going to hand wave this, and there's 4 towns that it's going to stop in, so it's technically a high-speed train, so it goes quite a distance. I didn't originally intend for it to be a train that goes through the night, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to have a long rest, so sort of
Appreciate
hand
it.
waving
As my
that.
patron, perhaps give me information on where, like, I don't know if this is too much information to know, but would she have
What?
had insight on where the baddies would be going to? Like how much
Yes.
time we might have?
This train goes to the baddie's stronghold, and you need
Oh.
to get the thingy that you're looking for off the train before you get to the stronghold. So
Okay.
I think you would know that you have time to take a rest in order to sort of rally. How about I do this? Let me know if you all are comfortable with this. Let's say that this is a high-speed train. Let me go back on saying that it'll go for a long time. What if your patron is feeling impatient, and in order to sort of like hurry things along, if you guys spend a short rest here, it'll have the same effect as a long rest. Does that sound all right? Yume's patron will sort of
Yeah.
like be like, keep moving, and oh, you're tired. Okay, here, and like shoves energy through Yume. Does that sound reasonable?
That is a neat storytelling
Hand waviness.
tool. Yeah.
Anybody uncomfortable with my hand waving? Okay. Well
If
then,
it works for happening in before boss battles, like, and you get a surge of energy, and it's like you've got a long rest. If it works then, I see no reason why it can't work here.
yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to give you all a rest between the length of this train, because I knew you were gonna end up using a lot of like D&D spoons, and stuff, and
I mean, that is a narrative reason that makes me feel like super great about it.
I like the idea of it too, because it involves the patron a little more, and I've been trying to think of excuses for that. So it's a good way to do that. Okay, so we'll say that you're narratively taking a short rest, but it feels like a long rest. So you can go ahead and mark that off on your sheets. But is your intention to keep small talk, and we'll end that? We'll end there, or did you want to start moving into the next train, and I'll sort of tell you what's in there, and then we can end? Which would you rather? Sven says, I showed up late and things sound like they're getting racy on this train. I deliberately said, Sven, that they weren't really flirting, that he was just sort of practicing.
It's only flirting noises, but obviously
only
not
flirting noises. Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
Handing on my lady knowledge.
Yeah.
My lady flirting knowledge.
They're just helping. Yeah. He's just taking notes. Yeah. He's learning by example or something. I don't know. Anyway, so what are you thinking? We gonna hang out here for the evening?
I think that seems reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay to not go into the next room. I mean, I'm curious, but who knows what could happen?
You can. It's there. It exists in everything. But yeah, I'm not trying to be like, please don't go in the next room because it's not there yet. It is. It's there. I have this all planned out.
What's the attendant like? Is the attendant antsy? Is he calmed down? What's his response to us ending the interaction?
When you just sort of start more small talk, he sort of calms down, but he's more obviously petting the dog, but absentmindedly. Right, like instead of sort of holding his hand out so Shy can rub her own nose, he's sort of like petting her to comfort himself, but he's not really conscious that he's broken his character, you know? He should just be standing at attention, and he's instead getting comfort from this cute dog.
Actually, I have more of a reason behind this now. I think it might be better for us to not go through the door right away. That way, if we hang out for a little while, let the air calm in the room, let the attendant calm down, so he's not so anxious and might be more cooperative to let us through the door later.
That sounds
Because
right.
we've gotten under his skin a little
That's
bit.
true. Also, we've like very much established that we're just excited to explore this train, which I think will give us a little bit more leeway, since like we came through the first class cabin and we were told like people stay where they stay, but we can kind of lean into the like just excited to be on trains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was smart. Yeah.
Also, that we started in the first class cabin is incredibly advantageous.
I was very lucky.
That is technically how cars are set up, so.
I thought first class was at the front.
So the front and the back of
Clearly
the
don't
train,
travel first class.
the first and the front and the back of the train are sometimes look backwards to people because of how a train is driven, and I can talk about this for too long, so I'm going to stop right now. And
Okay,
begin
but I will ask you more questions about it later. Cool.
Okay, if you want to be bored to death.
I'll just tell you when I start getting bored.
That's fair. Yeah, that's good friendship there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start our wrap up. Sven says flirting sounds. That's why I said sounds like. Sounds like they're getting racy. Okay. Sure.
Ooh.
Got it. All right. So we're going to do our wrap up. So I'm going to ask the players what they learned, and then we're going to get into them nominating good role-playing moments. Chat, Stream, I always accept nominations from Stream for good role-playing moments that then the players will vote on. And whoever gets the most votes, whichever moment gets the most votes, that character gets a advantage on a roll in the next session. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, what did you all learn this evening?
I learned that Winnie is steadfast, even when she's confused and uncomfortable.
We learned that Freya doesn't really like tea.
Mm-hmm. And that is sad.
Does her player not like
Just doesn't
tea?
know tea yet.
Oh, I like tea.
Okay, great, because I like tea, and that's important.
I drink a lot of tea.
I need a
Apparently,
My sister
Battle
doesn't
likes
though.
to
She thinks it all
solve.
tastes like grass.
Wait, what was that?
My sister thinks that tea tastes like grass, which is where I got it from. Like,
So does
she gets
Erin.
really upset that it smells really nice, but then you drink it and it doesn't taste like it smells.
Yeah,
Oh, funny.
I really like tea. Okay, what was there was another, who was saying the other thing that was
Apparently, Battle likes to solve everything with flirting. This is news to her player.
I think you've only flirted in this car, though.
I mean, but I also.
But she also
urged-
coached Winnie through flirting.
I was gonna say battle.
true.
Cyrano de
Sorry.
Bergerac.
It is new to us as players, but it seems to fit battle from scenes tonight.
I do. Yeah, that's an interesting development for battle. What else?
It's just the theme of the night is battle coaching the
Everybody in
Everyone.
how to
and to
flirt.
trick the straight guys into telling us what's going on.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. All right. What else did you learn? That's
The
okay.
train,
Shady
obviously,
business
the
going on this train.
What was that?
Front card.
Air Genasi.
Sorry, Winnie, I had trouble hearing you there. Can you repeat that?
There's some shady business going on in the front cars of this train.
Got it. And I heard, I think it was Battle saying something about the Air Genasi.
Yes, that's the origin and the stylization of the train.
Then they can go, oh, it wasn't the water god, it was a an air genasi. I don't know if we'd be allowed to make that connection, if it's obvious enough.
That's a really good point.
Oh, we might roll for that next time. I have some thoughts
That's
on it. All right, did you learn? You want me to write down anything else you learned, or are you ready for role-playing moments?
We learned that Winnie lost a piece of fruit, thus we had to go to the storage car. Maximum fruity.
That hat is getting more mileage.
It's so good.
It's a good hat.
It's so interesting playing off the stuff you guys say, because I do think about like what these NPCs' reactions would be. So when you were like, "It's a lost piece of fruit," and we were looking at the baggage car, and this guy was like, "Wait, you're not supposed to go back there." Like that's, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think we're good on.
We've
plan.
hedged on being reported or caught every single car we've been in.
You did. I was
Like
rolling
every single
dice.
attendant is
You-
drastically uncomfortable with our behavior.
They really are, but I've been rolling dice on my side of the board, and like you just haven't tripped anything yet.
Yes.
But I'm rolling.
We can't blame the first one. Like, there was no way to avoid that we were doing it bad. Like, we didn't belong there.
Yeah, you just marched across the room. You skipped over all kinds of interactions I had planned out. It was ridiculous. Okay. Role-playing moments. I accept them from stream chat, and I accept them, and I want them from the players as well. What moments this evening were particularly good role-playing moments?
There were so many because literally the entire night
Was all role-playing, yeah.
Was
was
all
all
for
role
good.
playing.
Sorry. I just like your characters a lot. I thought this would be fun.
I would say battle being Cyrano de Bergerac.
I do not know how to spell that.
It's in my captions.
I don't know what that is.
It's a story about this guy with a huge nose that's unattractive, but he's really good at romancing the ladies, and so this guy basically hires him to be a ghostwriter of love letters
Oh.
but it's for a girl that Cyrano loves, and so he's like helping this other guy get with this girl that he's into, even though like it's his words, and so he's like in the bushes telling this guy what to say to this girl, and yeah,
Tragic.
it's a good story.
So much I love it too. Oh my god, I love it.
That's great. That is, yeah. I like the way you described that too. That's good.
I
Other good.
liked Winnie trying to chat up the bartender. I don't know how to phrase it. Like, one-sidedly.
As awkwardly as possible. One-sidedly.
It was the conversation was definitely mismatched. I don't know how to say it any better than that.
I think I know what you mean. Right. It was just such a. It's like they were talking past each other,
Mm-hmm.
but not in a clever way. Like a. Right. Yes. You talk. No. Sorry. You go first. That kind of thing.
She
Okay.
was doing her best.
She was. She did a great job. You learned stuff. Other good role playing moments.
Really liked Freya's equivalent of like a magic sneeze when she had a failing roll for her detect magic spell.
So I had two other suggestions. One was that she sneezed in the middle of it and lightning like struck and like marked the floor. Another one
Oh, that would have
was
been really good.
you know how when you slide your feet on carpet, oh, that's gonna happen again. You slide your feet on carpets and you go to touch a door handle, and I was gonna have like static electricity jump from her to the person next to her.
Oh, those would have been great.
Don't
All
worry,
good options
I'm
we can
sure
use
you'll
again and
fail
again.
more rolls, and we can use new ones.
Oh, I totally will.
And it's I throw these ideas out so you can either be like, oh, that's totally what would happen, or it will inspire you for what does actually happen. So you never have to take my suggestions.
Yeah, but I will steal your suggestions and use them later or in
Go.
other games.
Well, this is a collaborative storytelling experience, so think of it less as stealing and more as we're doing this together. And the reason I have these ideas is because of how you've been playing Freya, right? Like I would never suggest that kind of thing if Yume fails a magic roll, right? Like it'll look very
That's true.
differently with Yume because of the way Yume plays her thing. If Battle has magic, it'll look very different there too, you know? So I get my ideas from your playing and back and forth. Anyway, bleh. Other good role-playing moments. You ready to vote?
So appreciated Yume's like positive, like I don't know that I want to call it nonchalant innocence, but just kind of like youthful presence in the last two cars of just like, okay, we're ready to go. Like I was sitting there worried about how we're gonna find a way to convince him, and she's just like, let's go. Oh, cool. Can you tell me what the problem is, though? Everybody's visibly uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was
Yume
very
has
true to
been a
you,
delight.
Yume
She's
is a
had
delight.
to practice putting presentability and kindness and a smile on top of discomfort.
That's a really
Well, it
interesting
was
way to put that.
delightful.
I think I captured all of that, and I'm gonna put it in your moment here because it's great. Oh, I definitely spelled presentability wrong. Presentability and kindness and a smile on top of comfort. On top of
Something like
discomfort.
that.
Discomfort.
Yeah.
Discomfort.
And it began with has experience practicing. And that's
Everybody just did so good. It's hard to point out a specific moment because just like it all flowed together really well to me. Like all these are just like big moments that I can't put specific words to.
yeah, that's kind of the tricky thing about the heavy role playing stuff is it sort of all flows together. Like Battle had a really good through line with sort of coaching Winnie and like keeping everybody moving. Freya just sort of blazed through like she normally does, which is very good, very solid role playing. Yume is sort of smoothing things over and like causing distractions and getting information, which is always very good. And Winnie, like that steadfast Winnie's just gonna do what needs to be done is real good. And Battle's got some really good behaviors for Shy going on. So like you've all got really good through lines, I think. And so yeah.
I have one more to nominate. You
Yep.
reminded me. I like how Battle is encouraging Shy, like utilizing Shy's cuteness to help distract when we need it. That's, I
Yeah.
think that counts.
The puppy.
Technically, it goes to Shy, but
Yeah, well, so when Battle when you were like, can I have one of the dogs? I knew this is what you were gonna do with it, and I was like, yep, totally. That was really good. All right, well, we've got some good role playing moments. We don't have any nominations from chat, perhaps because Sven was late and didn't get to listen to the rest of the. So next time, Sven, watch it from the beginning, and you'll have good role-playing moments to propose. But go ahead and vote. Which one? We've got Battle being Cyrano de Bergerac for Winnie. Winnie trying to chat up the bartender with the conversation definitely mismatched. Freya's equivalent of a magic sneeze when she failed a roll. And Yume's positive youthful presence in the last two cars has experience practicing presentability and kindness and a smile on top of discomfort. And then Battle encouraging Shy and utilizing Shy's cuteness when they need it. So I've got one vote. I'm losing my words, so we're definitely going to wrap up after this. My apologies. 2 votes. Three. Just waiting on one more. 4. Oh, we tied. Okay, so Freya and Battle are both going to take a role-playing point. Battle for being Cyrano de Bergerac for Winnie, and Freya for Freya's equivalent of a magic sneeze when she failed a roll. So yeah, those are excellent moments.
Yay.
I loved all of them. I had a really good time tonight, y'all. I believe we will not be playing next week, but we will consider the week after. I'll tweet about it, so go ahead and follow me
Sounds
on
good.
Like 7 Spoon at Twitter or Twitch, and you'll hear about that. You'll find me again tomorrow morning. I think I will be playing with my husband actually in Brunches and Brunches and Dragons, so that should be entertaining. And then again, Treasure Tuesday I think is paused.
What time
because
is that?
Brunches and Dragons is at 10:30 a.m. in the morning Pacific Standard Time. That's when we
Okay.
get started, and that's a storytelling. I'm calling it a lore collecting experience. So I'm using one-on-one interactions with players who create characters that I know nothing about. They tell me about them at the beginning of the session, and we just make up a story together, and it ends up being lore that I can use for the world. The air genasi that I mentioned today came from one of my Brunches and Dragons. The whole inspiration for this train and all of the little tidbits came from that player. And we made that crap up just right there starting at 10:30 a.m. So I'll be interested to see what I do with Aaron, because he and I are really we do a lot of this offline where we make up characters and we come up with all these backstories. So I'm imagining tomorrow will just look kind of like that, where he'll be like, I had this idea, and I'll be like, oh, what if it was like this? And we will just run with it. So it should be fun. I think Treasure Tuesday is taking a break next week as well due to some of the players moving, maybe. So I might do something else that evening with the other players, but we'll see. And that's it for me for the next week. Is there anywhere else that any of y'all would like to share that anyone can find you in the next week?
Don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I love this game. It is quite a bit of fun. But I believe it is time for us all to say good night, stream. Bye, stream.
Stream.
Bye, streams.